Psalm 84, 84. Psalm 84, verse 10 reads, "For a day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wickedness." Last episode, we spoke about what is the house of God? What does it mean? Where is it at? This episode, we are diving into the tents of wickedness. What does that mean? What does that look like? We're going to go over all of that today. So the first thing I want to start off with is defining what this word wickedness means. What is wickedness? Now, the typical definition of wickedness and what we would think is murder, theft, lust, things like that, just absolutely atrocious things. But as we read the Psalms, we see that the definition of wickedness can actually be generalized to something I would argue that is anything that is not of God. Anything that pulls you away, anything that is of the world and not of eternity is wicked. Jesus says that you are either with me or you are against me. It's very clear that there's not a lot of middle ground when it comes to being and walking with the Holy One. So I want to change your definition of wickedness from being maliciousness and doing evil to others on purpose to what this psalm is describing is anything outside God. See, we see it in the first part is I'd rather spend a day in your courts than 1,000 doing anything else. Not, hey, I would love to spend time with you and do this also. No, I wouldn't want to do anything else. I would sacrifice thousands of days so I can have one with you in your courts. So I want to change your definition of this to what the psalmist is writing is saying, hey, the tents of wickedness is anything that is not of God. What could that look like? It can look as simple as something like scrolling on social media, as constant consumption of entertainments, of conversations with friends at a high rate that have nothing to do with the gospel. I know that sounds simple and harmless, but as Jesus says, you are for him or you are not for him. This is a very important life, an important person we've chosen to follow, and there's not a lot of room for lukewarmness. We are in or we are out. What else was I going to say on this? So yes, even things as far as crude TV shows or even normal TV shows that just do nothing but entertain you can be considered the tents of wickedness because their dwelling is not permanent. It is not something that gets you closer to eternity. Now, how should I feel about this? Should I feel guilty and convicted about everything I'm doing that isn't in the Bible or specifically around God? No. But we need to be conscious of what we're doing and what tent we're actually dwelling in to be productive with the time God has graciously given us. The second point I want to dive into here is what is a tent? Obviously, we know what a tent is, but why does he say the tent of wickedness, not why the presence of wickedness? Now, the imagery of tent is very interesting because he says the house of God and the tents of wickedness. There's very specific imagery. See, the thing about a tent is if I were to put a tent outside and leave it there, within a couple days, it's going to collapse. Within a couple weeks, it may corrode, it may get destroyed, and it's not going to be livable. Compared to a house can last centuries. Okay, you build a house the correct way, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years later, it can still be there. Compared to a tent, within a couple weeks, it's gone. Okay, this is intentional imagery. Okay, the house of God is eternity. It will last a long, 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 long time, forever. And the tents of wickedness is temporary. He draws this parallel on purpose because the tents of wickedness are the temporary things of the earth, while the courts in the house of God is forever. So we see that there's also imagery around the things that are temporary and the things that are forever. Going back to our example of shows and entertainment and scrolling, yes, it may not be harmful now, but it is a tent. It is going to fall, it is going to collapse compared to the house that will stand forever. We also see tents representing worldviews almost, in the things that aren't important. We see this as a common thing inside the Psalms. It is tents representing the way people live, what they do, what they have internally, what they do externally. So we see this powerful imagery of saying, hey, I'd rather spend my time as a doorkeeper in your house, hanging out at your house, than would doing anything else that is temporary and not of you. That is what he is saying. Anything that is temporary and has no longevity in the Lord, I would rather stay with you and be a doorkeeper than do anything there. So I hope this makes sense as a psalm. I know we talked about just 2 points around this, and that's okay. This one, it's pretty easy to get a hold of it. But I want to challenge you on the definition of what this psalmist is writing here, the sons of Korah are writing here in this psalm, is that I would rather be with God, who is eternal, than do anything else that is not eternal. It is a complete dedication, complete obsession with the Lord Jesus. So I hope that makes sense. I appreciate you for hopping in. That is our part 2 of the series. Next week, we are going to dive straight into the subject of what does it mean to be a doorkeeper, and that will be the bow tie for this lesson. So I appreciate you guys watching. We will see you next time.